What happens when two kids ride the exact same bus? In this episode, we're going to shift our spotlight from race to roots, from community tension to the invisible rift when you live in the same exact zip code. Raised between worlds, we're going to explore the raw truth behind our culture's fascination with economic inequality, but we're going to do it through the eyes of a child. Not just the ones who have it all, but we want to talk about those who grow up in unconventional roofs, foster care, grandparents, distant relatives, distant parents. We're going to talk about today navigating childhood without the traditional parental blueprint. So y'all, I wanted to tap into this conversation. It was actually something I overheard. I was watching something on television, and I think the term we used to use when I was younger, either you had the bougie crowd, you had the ones who didn't have, you had those who considered themselves the upper echelon as it relates to because their parents or grandparents had more money. And then you had the term that was often used when I was growing up, hood. You must be in the hood. These the hood kids because you didn't have as much. And that was the perception that one group was deemed better than the other group simply because of money. And so I found a couple of conversations. One was called Two Wallets, One Neighborhood. And it was a conversation simply between two locals who were from different economic brackets. And in that conversation, what I found is neither one could truly see the other's point of view. The one who was rich didn't have to worry about where the next meal was coming from. But the one who was poor didn't necessarily have to worry about if there was going to be a family member that was available to do something as simple as get them up and get them off to school. The one who was wealthy, they didn't have to plan trips because it was a given. It was already done for them. The one who may not have had those same opportunities used to look forward to if they had family reunions, that was considered vacation. So what I found in listening to those conversations is that it strictly just seemed like there was no way to celebrate what was similar between those two individuals versus the monetary piece is what kept them divided. I guess if you think about it, in some ways as adults, that's in some ways how we operate still in this society today. But is there a cost to that disconnect? And what would it take us to build trust and unity when people's daily experiences are simply different? Perhaps it's simple as a conversation. Perhaps we have something in common. Sports seems to be a universal conversation. Music seems to be a universal conversation. Food, sometimes, pizza, seems to be a universal conversation. But why is it that we still have the notion that you have the bougie and the broke? We're going to tear down this myth and we're going to bust both sides of it. We need to start deconstructing these stereotypes from every single possible end of the spectrum. One of the lines in my favorite songs is, I need you, you need me, we need each other to survive. There are going to be some times where we're going to find ourselves on the same bus ride, the same airplane, the same train ride, and often in cars in front of each other, next to each other. We're going to be in the same circles. And so why, the question I have for you, why have we let money and financial means tear us so far apart as a community and as a culture? And why is it that it has even seeped into our school systems? Where simply because if a child doesn't have on a certain name brand of shoes, they are less than a person who can carry a name brand bag. Proverbs 14:31 tells us, whoever oppresses the poor shows contempt for their own maker, but whoever is kind to the needy honors God. This verse reminds us that how we treat those who have less is actually a reflection of how we treat our relationship with God. I was on my way to a 5K race. A lot of you guys may or may not know I participate in the Atlanta Track Club, and oftentimes on the weekends we'll have different events in different areas. And as I was driving along 7585, we're talking about this is 5:30, 5:45 in the morning, because we do a lot of times have to be there early before the weather gets too warm. And my mind was initially thinking about how was I going to start this race? How was I going to walk? Was I going to jog? Because I'm still just getting back into a place where I can start exercising again after my surgery. And so I was so wrapped up in my mind that I'm glad they were doing construction on the road, because it made me look over to the right-hand side of 7585, and I saw these tents. And I saw people. And the first thing my heart said was I so tied up in what I was getting ready to do that I couldn't pause and say a quick prayer for those individuals? I started thinking about all the times I used to disrespect my parents, even though they were keeping a roof over my head. I started thinking about all the times the job drives me crazy, not realizing I have food on the table. And so sometimes even those who consider themselves as bougie, sometimes you need to just take a deep breath and be appreciative of you being in that space, instead of looking down on someone who's actually navigating that space. Because you'll never know. One day the shoe could be on the other foot. Proverbs 22:2 says something so important and pivotal. And I want you guys to memorize this. Proverbs 22:2 says, the rich and the poor have this one thing in common. The Lord is the maker of them all. This beautiful reminder says that despite financial differences, despite of being raised in foster care, despite of being raised by a grandmother, a grandfather, a single mother, a single father, not being raised traditionally and what our culture says or defines as family, you still share we still share a divine equality with each other. James 2:1-4 says is that it warns against favoritism, especially in how we treat people based on the appearance of them looking like they have wealth. Let me make you laugh. Some of you guys, students who may ride the bus with kids who seem to have more, appear to have more. Let me tell you something. Looks can be deceiving. One of my favorite quotes here in Atlanta. I love Atlanta. I've been here, oh my goodness, going on almost well over 25 years, maybe close to 30 years. And the joke right now in Atlanta is we have all these broke bougie people, because you're riding around and you're seeing, a certain group of individuals showing up to the movies in Maybachs and, to the movies. And if you're renting those items for appearance only, I hate to be the one to disappoint you. That does not mean that you're wealthy. It just means you're simply having what looks like a rich moment. But you have to understand the way that you treat people, it is a direct challenge to how people will treat you. It's often said that when you get money, money just simply makes you more of who you are. And when you think about that, who are you before money? And what values do you plan on taking with you, even if you're considered in a space that's less than? Think about, I want you guys to do some research. Go online. Think about people when they win the lottery. There are so many people, unfortunately, who won the lottery and are broke to this day. They had a dedication to give more, to spend more. They had dreams of doing everything that they always wanted to do. And without regard, they found themselves in the exact same place that they were before they won the money. I think if I can be honest with you, at this point in my life, I probably would want more of a good heart, and I'd want to be a giver, but I think I'd be a little bit more financially inclined to help those individuals that I probably wouldn't go to the mall and just go shopping. I probably would be trying to find out where the grandmothers that are taking care of their children. I have a heart for children who are raised in foster care simply because of a lot of kids that I mentor. And so it's about learning what's important about the dollar itself, because a dollar can be here today and a dollar can be gone tomorrow. For children who are raised outside of traditional homes where you typically will see a mother and a father, Psalm 68, 5-6 says, "A father to the fatherless, a defender of widows, is God in his holy dwelling." Yes, he is, because God sets aside time to be there for the ones who feel lowly in heart, even if that feels like you're lowly in your family. This speaks directly to children who maybe find themselves raised in foster care or by extended family. God sees you and he places you still in your community, in his community, in your heart. Isaiah 1:17 says, "Learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow." It's a call to action for the community to protect and uplift those children that you see that have what's considered a traditional parental support system. I am often, I don't have any I didn't birth children, but I have so many children simply because they seem to wean to me. My joke was, oh, they know who's going to spoil them. No, I don't think that's what it is. I think children gravitate to where they feel like there's a safe space. And so if you know of someone or see someone and they may not have a dad in the home, they may not have, their mother in the home, give them a little bit more attention. Say good morning to them. Hey, you good? You need anything? I have a friend right now. We have her two daughters. One of them getting ready to go to school. We sent a text. Hey, what do you need for school? What do you need us to pick up for you? You need clothes. There are so many of us that have that nurturing spirit to give, but I think in some ways we've been burned. And so we come out of the space of helping people when unintentionally we simply may have helped the wrong people. But there are children who need to feel loved so they won't grow up bitter with the world and even within your own communities. James 1:27 reminds us, it says, "Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: you are to look after orphans and widows in their distress." So many times we talk about the single mom, and I'm not taking away anything from that, but there are widows who lost their husbands, who have children, and who have no clue where to go from there. So make sure that you include them in your prayers as well. We have a responsibility. I'm not walking outside of our community. I'm walking in our community, in the Black community. We have a responsibility to be unified and to be responsible to raising our own children, even if they're not within our same household. I think that's one of the places that the church can have such a pivotal role, like it did when I was growing up. There were youth activities. There are still a lot of churches that do vacation Bible schools in the summertime and summer programs and summer camps. Let's continue to support and nurture those programs. Galatians 6:2 says, we are to carry each other's burden. And in this way, we will fulfill the law of Christ. This is a reminder to our community. We have got to stop living so divided. I don't care how popular it is. I don't care, how it feels like it's the right thing to do. It is time for our community to grow up, grow back into the spaces that we're supposed to be, and heal these unnecessary divisions that we have. Our economical and our emotional stability, y'all, is at a place where we shouldn't have never see it go. But it's time for us to start raising up and to be responsible again so that our children can feel empowered again. Micah 6:8 says, he has shown you what is good. And what does the Lord require of us? To act just, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with him. This should be your moral compass when you see a need in the community amongst your children, amongst widows, amongst single moms, amongst single dads, grandparents who are raising children. So what does this actually look like in your own real life? And do you feel a call to carry someone's burden in your community? And why do you think so many kids are carrying their fears and their hurts in silence? What type of community, if any, are you willing to build so that our kids can see themselves as equal and not less than someone who has more than they do? There is an emotional cost of growing up without traditional parents. The stability, the trust, and the identity are oftentimes hard to shape, especially when they are in a school, in a learning environment where something as simple as the father-daughter dance, they may not be able to experience that. You know that not every child grows up with what's called a picture perfect parent. In fact, some of them grow up without parents at all. And while love can still live in the cracks of broken homes, thank God there's parents and aunts and uncles and foster families and neighbors that step up to the plate. But in a child's heart, there's still no place like home with their natural and biological families. And we thank God that it often comes wrapped in something with a little bit of stability when these individuals step up to help these children in the community. What does it look like when a child has to simply survive? But y'all, surviving is not thriving. When stability feels like a privilege, but shouldn't it be a promise? Trust becomes a test, but shouldn't it be a gift? And their identity, Lord have mercy. What puzzle pieces, the half pieces, are they trying to pull together to even understand who they are as an individual? Because some days to them it looks like it's just messed up. So As it relates to economic labels and childhood potential, how does being poor or privileged affects opportunity, self-worth, and relationships? My research showed that children in these situations tend to feel like survival is the only way to go. But remember what I said earlier, surviving is not thriving. Stability should never feel like just a privilege. Trust, it should be a gift. They have to feel that it's okay to be resilient. But how in the world can they do that when everything around them tells them that they should just be okay with the situation that they're in? You better just learn to deal with the hand that you've been dealt. What if they don't get to wake up with an iPad in their hand by the age of 6? What if they don't get to go to summer camps? But what if the children that they go to school with every day have all of those privileges, even something as simple as having 2 parents at the dinner table? They're not villains. They simply were just dealt a different game with different rules. But y'all, hear me when I tell you, that disconnect is silently real. What do you do when one group has security and the other group has to assume there is security? As the peer dynamics go, exploring, let's talk about how kids from wealthier homes unconsciously exclude or misunderstand kids with less, and possibly even vice versa. Kids who have less can assume because kids have everything in the world, they don't have any problems. Oh, no, I don't believe that's the truth. Because I've seen shows, I've talked to kids, I've seen things where, parents are so busy making the money that they don't have time for the kids. Nannies raise the kids, butlers. I mean, they're being raised by other people other than their parents. So having a lot of zeros behind their name could be just as different as you feeling like you might not have the nice clothes that they have. One of the ongoing stories that I've heard, oh my goodness, for months is, you have the entertainer that's been in trouble and he's been going through all his court cases. And the stories have been, how are the kids, how are the daughters, how are the sons, how are they dealing with all of this? And I know they've still been making videos on social media. They went to proms, they're doing different things, but you can see it in their eyes. Money can't protect them from that type of exposure. Money did not protect them from that kind of exposure. There was no plane ride. There was no ferry. There was no place they could go because the story was so, I know for sure all over the United States, but I'm sure it was international as well. There was no money that they could use to get away from that situation with their dad. And so wealthy people have problems too. You have this administration right now. You rarely see the son. Money doesn't take all your problems away either. There's an emotional cost to growing up, no matter what type family dynamic you find yourself in. Your home could be wealthy today. It can be broke tomorrow. Your home could be in disarray today. Your parents could have a windfall. Not knowing who you are and exploring what you desire will be more of a cold blue. Cold, that would get you more than what you can pull out of your wallet every day. Gotta know, not knowing who you can really trust. Because trust is one of the things that creates a safe space. Now, I don't think we talk enough in our churches and our schools and our neighborhood programs about how these things tend to affect our foster kids or our youth raised by guardians. They desire to be a real part of our communities. We have to go beyond just a shared zip code and them riding the bus together. They want to feel valued. They want to feel loved. They want to talk about their emotional spaces and their emotional prices. They want to have money to do things. They want to be able to go to the mall and shop and do things that they feel traditional homes do. But you can't look at them as less because they don't have it. We have a responsibility to carry the children in our community no matter what. I am longing for the day, and I'm a part of the hip hop generation. I am longing for the day when we can embrace the fact that we are a community. I saw this thing and it really bugged my energy before I started recording the episode. This meme was showing how basically the only way in our community we are successful is if we step outside of our community. That is so far from who we are. Go back and do your history. Really go back and study some of the legends that our community. I would implore you to even go back and study something as close as Birmingham, Alabama. There was a very balanced community. You know, I grew up seeing Black-owned grocery stores, Black-owned funeral homes. The neighbors were the piano teachers. There was, when my mom, when she was a single mother, there was someone there to take us to school, someone to help. And so even though we weren't riding the buses at that time, we were still walking to school with our neighbors. I think it's time for us to realize that we have a problem in our community. And I feel like it's called the me, fi, me attitude. And I feel like we have this weird kind of comedic. Now, don't get me wrong, because I love to laugh. I'm the first one. I'll turn on a comedy show in a heartbeat. But I think we've chosen either to laugh to the point where it's ridiculous, or we've gotten to the point where we're in the me, fi, me society. And somewhere in the middle, there's this community of children who are crying out, who are waiting to see which side is going to come pick them up and help them to become the individuals that God created them to be. I know that it's not your responsibility to raise somebody else's child. I know that it's not even your assignment to be in more than one place at one time. But there is a problem. And only we can get together and do what needs to be done. But hey, I'm going to say this only if we choose to. I can't spin your pockets. Can't tell you what to do. You're grown. But what I'm saying is that we don't see a change soon, we're going to raise up another angry, unforgiving, maliced community. And they're going to turn every single thing that we took away from them, they're going to turn it and continue to carry it on into the next generation. Who's going to plug the hole, y'all? Who's going to say it ain't all just about me? Who's going to go back to the days of old? What if back in the day, the ancestors decided, you know what? I'm not going to fight for them to vote. I'm not going to fight for them to be able to drink from a water fountain. I'm not going to, be in these spaces and places where I'm getting spat on, and I'm not doing anything for this next generation. What if they took that attitude? What if they said, you know what? I'm just glad to be here. I don't care about what's going on after me. Just some food for thought, y'all. Sometimes we need to go back and we need to remember when someone did something for us. And perhaps maybe we can start looking at some things differently than what we do. So as I close out this episode, I want to remind you that we all live in neighborhoods, no matter what it looks like. They are stitched together by sidewalks, but divided by silence. Some of our children grow up with abundance. Others had abstinence. And while we all may share zip codes, we do not always share the same understanding and the same values. But Scripture reminds all of us, search me, God, and know my heart, and see if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. And that's Psalms 139, 23 through 24. Before we point at the other people, the other men, the other women outside of our community, we got to start looking inward, my people. Because healing begins not with continuing to blame, but to be honest. Not with judging, but with compassion. Not with comfort, but sometimes, y'all, we got to do some conviction. If we truly believe that we can do this and that the Lord is the maker of all of us, then we must slow down and ask ourselves, what have we done with the real truth? Have we built bridges, or are we simply just building walls? What that looks like, it's totally up to you. But I tell you what, I choose to build walls. I choose to be a respecter of people. I choose that even when I know a situation may be something that I can't handle, I choose to see if I can try to find some help for that situation. I choose my community. I choose Black men. I choose Black women. I choose Black children. I believe I choose the bougie in us. I choose the complicated in us. I choose the poor in us. I choose the family units that don't look like us. I choose those. But I choose them because this is the community that God saw fit for me to be born in. And I hope that you would be willing to make a choice too. Choose this day what people you're going to serve within your community. All right, y'all, this is your girl, author Monica Martin Fletcher. As always, thank you for allowing me to empower you, to equip you, to put the information out there to you. But please know, ultimately, out of thousands of podcasts that you listen to, the choice is still going to be up to you. I'll see you on my next episode. Be blessed.